And for you to mention, that piece of legislation has been talked about for 35 years. That is absurd to me because like how quickly cybersecurity evolves, even within a year, and like that's the problem that I have is that the legislation does not evolve as quick. And so we put these rules in place that kind of don't mean anything for the most part, in my opinion. And then, when companies get breached, I mean, what are we finding Meta? We're finding Meta like what, $20 billion? I mean, there's some mathematician at Meta that does the calculation of, oh, okay, we'll make that back in 2 days. Yeah, we could pay the 20 billion. Like it doesn't matter, right? It's inconsequential. And so like it's a weird place where it's really difficult to hold companies accountable, right? In terms of breaches, but then the governments also need to figure out how to act faster with this sort of thing because, there's looming threats over the horizon and our adversaries are a bit more bold with their attacks than we are, right? Like, I mean, if we just think about like the last, major attack that America allegedly led, right? Might have been Stuxnet. Maybe I'm missing one or two. But like at least the one that, sticks out the most is Stuxnet to me. And I mean, that happened, what, 15 years ago at this point? 15 years ago when we last like kind of publicly acted in that manner. And you look at the amount of attacks that Russia's done, right? Just on Ukraine. I mean, it's crazy. And as cybersecurity experts, we look at it and there's some of these attacks that are like, oh, they're probing the network. The way that they're testing that is something that they're preparing for later on down the line. Maybe not even with Ukraine, maybe with another country, but Ukraine is their target and they're testing this out right now, Are you seeing the discussions around that at all in the political circles?
Yeah, definitely. I think principally a lot of this discussion is being driven at the moment out of the US in terms of what does offensive cyber look like in this current environment, and to what extent do democratic governments need to work more closely with the private sector on ensuring that we do have the right offensive cyber capabilities in place, and where does the kind of line get drawn between what should remain the prerogative of the state and where should industry play a role, and kind of what does that look like within an ethical framework. So it's definitely something that we're seeing ramping up and then kind of trickling down across the kind of other jurisdictions around the world. And even in here in the UK, we've had our security minister really ramping up the rhetoric around, offensive cyber capabilities, and the government investing 1 billion in a kind of cyber command within their kind of military capabilities, and looking more at cyber within the kind of context of deterrence as well, and thinking about how do we ramp up investment in deterrence. So I think we're still relatively early days in that ramping up of the rhetoric and announcing kind of big spending announcements. There was another billion in President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill Act, which talks about investment in offensive cyber operations as well. And I think we just kind of need to see how that kind of plays out in practice. But at the moment, the rhetoric does seem to be ramping up in terms of governments moving to a war footing, this kind of level of distrust on the geopolitical landscape, and needing to develop their own kind of core cyber